What's up, Devy peoples? It's EK. The Devy Dose is back in the house. Week 2, yet another awesome week of college football. Fantasy teams are firing on cylinders or falling flat on their faces. Either one. Kyle,
Or
how you
middling.
feeling, man? Yeah, or middling.
All of mine
One
are
of those.
middling. I
You
have
got some
one team that's
1-1
2-0, and everything else is 1-1.
I had some teams that I thought were going to be competitive. They're 0-2. And it's not even like I'm the second highest scorer. I have just either misjudged the quality or done very poorly with start sits, which is a weak point for me for sure. And did we any updates on Aaron Rodgers, Kyle, or was he straight carted off?
Oh, I don't know. Carted off.
Aaron Rodgers just got
fans
hurt.
are in pain. Ankle.
Ankle. Well, hopefully it's a high ankle and not an ACL. At least the boy can play later this year at that. Lots of great content for you tonight. Lots of good football, in the past 48 hours that we all got to partake in. At the beginning of the NFL. Sickos, you're still mostly watching the college football, but, I watch the NFL while I'm doing my show prep, while I'm setting waivers and stuff like that. Kyle, what do you think of the games this week, man?
I caught a few of them. Texas, Alabama was pretty fun. Tennessee, Austin P was very disappointing for me.
Well, you guys were down 3 points at the beginning, right?
It was 6. It was 6-3 before the final drive of the second quarter.
Yeah, that's it's not a happy Tennessee, I'm sure. A&M was a great game. It's Miami. It didn't go the way I wanted it to. I would love Connor Wegman to be just dissecting teams, and I do think that was more a case of Miami's defense being excellent than A&M's offense being bad. They still put up 33 points, but that was definitely not how I expected that game to go. Did you catch that one at all?
Not really. I was at a music festival this weekend, so I caught what I could. I watched the late games. I saw Hozier. I saw Judah and the Lion, Need to Breathe. Few smaller acts. Kind of a country, not a country, but like a folk vibe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I can get down for folk. I've been known to listen to some bluegrass and some Americana from time to time. Might be in my playlist. All right, well, let's launch in, my friend. So, ballers of the week. Who was your top picks as the week's top performers?
So I first of all, you stole mine, the one I really wanted to pick, but I did go ahead and put down Nathan Carter. 19 carries, 111 yards, 3 touchdowns, adds 2 receptions for 14 yards in a big Michigan State win over Richmond. Obviously, it's Richmond, so can't take too much from it, but a very impressive follow-up to his week 1 performance. So interesting to see what he'll continue to do throughout the rest of the season, especially with everything that's happening up there at Lansing.
Yeah, I definitely love the usage for him. And like I said, I didn't catch that game, but he's looked great so far. Actually showing some serious juice. He's not just plotting out yardage. My biggest one was Jatavian Sanders. Man, Xavier Worthy was balling in that game, but Sanders, I gotta say, he put the team on his back more than once, dragging dudes down the field, just making plays, looking like a baby Gronk in all his glory. Just shedding dudes and going up and catching jump balls. Man, and Sanders is a favorite of mine anyways, but man, he looked awesome this weekend.
Yeah, I love when I get texts from Jax Falcone, who barely watches college football. He texts me on Saturday. He goes, "This Sanders kid, you got to move him up in your rankings." I text him back. He's already the second highest tight end.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Like,
man.
I know what I'm doing. Just
Yeah, and deserved. I think some people that haven't been paying attention to him probably are now. As you pointed out.
mm-hmm.
What else you got?
I have Austin Reed, the Western Kentucky quarterback. He'll be a fixture in this segment, I'm sure. I think every week we're going to read either his stat line or Caleb Williams' stat line, just because they always have good performances. Reed in this game scored 5 touchdowns, 4 through the air, 1 on the ground, added 253 passing yards and 14 rushing yards. So I believe a 45-point CFF outburst for him.
Who I'm surprised that you didn't work in here, my friend? How did you not get TBD up in here with his 5 touchdown, 374-yard performance? I mean,
that's
he
true.
balled out.
He is the thumbnail for this week, so
we will talk about him plenty more. Gage, I might not say this well, but Gage Larvadane, I want to say. 12 catches, 12 targets, 8 catches, 273 yards. That is a football team's worth of passing offense in 165-pound wide receiver.
Yeah, a JUCO transfer takes over the room immediately, kind of fills into that role that what is his name? Used to have kind of a funny name. Mac Hippenhammer.
Yeah, Hippenhammer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fills into that role with Gabbert playing quarterback once again. So I think he's super interesting the rest of the year. He was a guy that I pushed for us to rank at all during the previews. So happy to see him do it.
One of the many guys that I was like, who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, I have Tet McMillan, another guy who will probably be a oft-in-seen fixture here. 8 receptions, 161 yards, and a touchdown for the Arizona wideout this week. Pretty impressive, especially because that's against a P5 opponent in Mississippi State. So one of the few players who's had an opportunity to do something against a P5 opponent, and he performs very well.
Yeah, definitely. Tet keeping it a 3-man race for the wide receiver one in that class between himself, Burden, and Evan Stewart, all who have been balling out this year. Really different games for the 3 of them, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun following those 3 careers over the next couple of years. That's going to be looking like a good wide receiver class, at least 5 deep for guys that I'm very interested in.
Yeah, for sure.
And then love to see it. Omarion Hampton, young man, balling out, 26 carries, 234 yards, 3 tutties. I mean, this is what we have been just waiting to see from Omarion, but he's had a hard time really dominating the workload there. He had those few games last year where he led the backfield and then kind of faded back into a committee. Looks like British Brooks was banged up. Did you notice?
I didn't.
I saw him with a little red flag somewhere when I was flipping around in Fantrax. So I'm wondering if that's why Hampton got the full load.
Well, he definitely made the case to still get that full load, and British Brooks has never really made that case.
No, he's been fine, right? And Hampton running for almost 10 yards of freaking carry is it's tough to put that back on the shelf, tough to put it back in the bottle. I got a couple shares of Hampton, and if he does this again, he'll be the sort of guy I'm aggressively targeting because it's a good system with elite talent around him, at least for the rest of this year. And he definitely has an NFL type profile in terms of size and speed. So a lot of good things in Ben's profile. Our sound coming in and out there.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
Move on. Breakouts and
Breakouts and busts. Yeah. Get a little echo. Does it sound funny on your end or just mine?
No, I think you sound all right.
Okay, it's just on my end. It must be in my headphones. Not a big deal, man. All right. My first breakout, Caleb Jackson, running back, LSU, true freshman, guy with elite speed at size, 11 carries, 62 yards, a couple of tutties. Man, if he could take over that backfield, he's a guy that could be a really great Devy hold. How you feeling about Jackson?
I don't see that happening this year.
No, too much around him, but everyone else is mid.
Yeah, but everyone else gets used.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's Murray State, probably garbage time carries. Good for him to see the field. Good for him to get those 2 touchdowns out of the way. Makes him. He'll definitely hold his value over this season, but not. I don't think it's going to happen this year. Maybe once Williams is gone, I think Diggs might be gone after this season. So that kind of just leaves like him and Armani Goodwin.
Mm.
I think Goodwin's a decent player, but yeah.
Very different profile for Amani Goodwin than for Caleb Jackson.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Diggs had a nice game too, right?
Probably. I think everyone on that team had a nice game.
Yeah, Diggs had 20.3 fantasy points, 15 attempts, 115 yards, redeeming himself after just not playing at all in week 1 and kind of worrying me in some leagues. All right, who you got for a breakout?
I have the aforementioned Gage Larvadane. Figured I'd mention him here. I think this is a true breakout for him. He had 12 targets in this game. More importantly, though, he also had 12 targets in week 1. He just faced Miami of Florida, so a much more difficult team than UMass this week. I think these are performances that we can continue to see out of Larvadine. So super excited for him for the rest of the season. I think this is a true breakout. I think he'll do great against other MAC teams. So definitely interested in him.
Yeah, I love that he had 12 targets and 80 yards against a Miami defense that we saw make life very tough on some elite talent at A&M this weekend. So that is, that's a good feather in the cap for me. My other breakout, also a running back, Darius Taylor, separating himself from the pack, perhaps at Minnesota, carrying the load this week. 33 carries, 193 yards, a tutty. We wasn't sure if it was going to be Zach Evans or Darius Taylor. I think I was soundly in the Zach Evans camp because he looked good last year. But, man, Darius Taylor looks like he might have claimed himself a job.
Yeah, big performance for him, obviously against Eastern Michigan. So we'll see if he can carry that into the Big Ten schedule. My next breakout is the true freshman running back from Louisiana Tech, Keith Willis Jr. He had 13 carries for 188 yards and 2 touchdowns in this one. He's a guy that I liked as a small school prospect as a recruit. So super excited to see this in just his 3rd collegiate game. He's a guy who has a ton of size, ton of power, and runs quick too. I mean, he's 5'11", 210, so he's got good size, especially for a true freshman. And he runs people over, drops the shoulder, carries them a few extra yards. So just the type of player that I love to watch play football, and the type of guy who can eat at that level, especially once Marquise Crosby is completely not in the picture. Not in the picture this week because of injury, but someday he'll move on, and Keith Willis will take the job completely. So
Is it Crosby, was he a sophomore this year or a redshirt sophomore?
He is class of 2021. He is a redshirt sophomore.
And a good player. He's a guy that you could see transfer too if he has a good season. Or heck, Keith Willis could transfer if he has a great season here. Definitely.
Yeah, and it could also just be a great 1-2 punch with, Willis taking the pounding snaps and Crosby being the more athletic type guy. So the thunder and lightning duo could happen.
Yeah, loving it. And on the other end, we had plenty of
I do have one more breakout that I didn't put on the sheet.
Sorry, guy.
I want to give him his props. I caught the end of this game. I thought he looked pretty impressive. True freshman quarterback out of Virginia, Anthony Calandria, fills in this week for an injured Tony Muskett and goes 20 for 26 for 377 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception against James Madison. Obviously, James Madison, a group of 5 team, but a very good group of 5 team. James Madison actually won this game in the end. So Calandria, not a guy that I'm like rushing to waivers to get or anything, but this is like pretty impressive for a true freshman and his like first start ever. So I think there's tools there. He impressed me with some of his deep throws. So definitely a guy I'm going to watch out for if he can take the job next year. So just thought I'd mention him, bring him up.
Yeah, love it. Love it, love it, love it. I didn't love the performances we got out of some of these other guys. Some of these have kicked me personally right in the shins.
I only picked guys that kicked me in the shins. Me personally.
Smoke Harris, I didn't start this week because he already kicked you in the jewels last week. And this week was worse. 2 catches, 9 yards. Wow. Rough. What are you doing with Smoke, Kyle? I mean, is he going to stay on the bench? I guess we could talk more about this in a minute, but definitely tough to throw the guy in the lineup at this point.
I mean, just the 3 targets this week. I think a lot of that could be due to the fact that they played a horrible team. Louisiana Tech completely outmatched, I believe, Northwest State, NW State, whatever this team is. Louisiana Tech won this game 51-21, so not many reasons to pass the ball often. They had a great performance from Willis on the ground, as we mentioned. So I think this was more of a game script call. Last week against SMU, he still had 9 targets. And week 0, he had 11 targets. So I think he's still a target hog type wide receiver who's going to see, 8 to 10 targets every week in games that are actually close. And I think we'll see games get closer for them. Their upcoming schedule, North Texas is next week. I'm not sure what to do with that one. I think Louisiana Tech's better than North Texas. I don't think they're 30 points better. So might put him back in the starting lineup. And then Nebraska, UTEP, Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, those will all be games that are closer. Some of those games will be playing from behind, throwing the ball even more. So I'm not worried about Smoke Harris yet. I think this was a game script issue.
Yeah. And also worth noting that wide receiver 2, Cyrus Allen, was out for this game, might be out for the next game. He was out for Saturday against Northwestern State. All right. What was your bust here?
Yeah, so Bachmeier had 20 attempts in this game. Week 1 and week 0, he had 33 and 45. So I think this is just a weird game. My first bust is J. Michael Sturdivant, who was a breakout last week, moves to the bust column this week. Just 2 receptions for 23 yards against San Diego State. with Dante Moore at quarterback for UCLA. How worried are you about Sturdivant for CFF? I know we're both pretty excited about Devy, but
I feel like you're not going to be able to rely on him week for week, but I don't know. I think that's a team that would rather run the ball first, pass second. Even his breakout game was only 5 catches, but it was more targets. I think he got like
it was
8
9 targets.
Yeah, 9 targets
versus this week 4.
Yeah. And who was the opponent this week?
San Diego State, and last week Coastal Carolina.
Right. So pretty comparable competition, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's my fear, is that you're not going to be able to rely on him week to week, even though he is, in my opinion, a superior talent to anyone else on that team. I just think you might have to deal with some misses.
I think Dante Moore looked really good in this game. He was 17 for 27, threw for 290 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's still a true freshman, still in his first start ever. So I think this passing offense will get better as the season progresses with the young quarterback, very talented young quarterback. So I think there's room to still be excited about Sturdivant, especially if Moore really starts putting it together and Chip Kelly puts more of the offense into his hands.
Yeah, it takes the reins off a little bit. Sure. I can buy that. My next bust was Deion Burks. He had high hopes for him, wide receiver from Purdue. Really looked explosive in week 1, drew 10 targets. This week had just 1 catch for 18 yards on 4 targets. I think the hype of him being the clear wide receiver 1 for Purdue might have been a little bit early at this point. I just don't know if he's going to be that target hog. We've seen that offense, or it's a different offense this year, right? But that target hog that we've seen Purdue feature in the past. So I don't know. Are you worried about Deion Burks?
Yeah, so just 3 targets in this game. The tight end had 9, and then TJ Sheffield had 6. I thought preseason that it was going to be TJ Sheffield who was kind of the wide receiver 1 in this offense. So I don't know. I didn't really buy into Burks. I didn't pick him up in any leagues. I don't know. It's tough. I think I don't think this is an offense that I want to be invested in really anyway.
With Hudson Card at the helm.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seems like they're going to struggle against the Michigans, the Ohio States, the Big Ten teams that are actually decent on defense. Because they struggled against Fresno State and Virginia Tech now. So
right.
Yeah. And then my next one, Mikey Keene. This is kind of a good stat line for a bust, but just not what we expected after a huge performance against Purdue. 223 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns and an interception, and then just 2 rushing yards against Eastern Washington. Eastern Washington took Fresno State to overtime in this game. A rough performance from Keene against an FCS opponent after a big week 1. What do you make of that?
I'm not that worried about it. I still have a lot of faith in that offense. So I think he's going to have better days ahead of him. Of all of these guys, I am the least worried about Keene. Just because, again, I think it's a system thing, and that's a quick offense with high passing volume. And we've seen him do well against decent defenses so far. I just think they didn't really need him to chuck it 40 times in this game.
This was a 31-30 game.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. What do you think, Kyle?
I don't know. It's worrying. I didn't watch it, so I'm not totally sure. But the fact that they couldn't really separate from Eastern Washington is concerning to me. And he didn't really use his legs any, which was kind of something we saw in week 1 and something we hoped to see during the preseason, was that he would get some rushing stats, and that hasn't happened yet. So I don't know. The performance still isn't that bad. It's just not like the top 10 performance you'd want to see of a guy that we think is really CFF relevant against an FCS team. So
Right. You really wanted to see him
eat,
kick him in the head,
Yeah, I wanted to see Austin Reed numbers against Eastern Washington.
There might
but
only
maybe that's
be
just
one.
Not what we're gonna see.
Yeah, but I don't know. Definitely still a valuable asset. Just maybe not a top 20 type quarterback on the season. We will learn more as the season progresses. Plenty of other guys wounded us this week. TJ Finley got me a little bit excited about him after him having some success against Baylor. Played Utsa this week for a grand total of 6.64 fantasy points. 53% completion percentage did not get it done for my fantasy squad. Anyone else to wrap up the oofs with?
Well, the guy who's been killing me both of the first 2 weeks is Kansas tight end Mason Fairchild. I have a lot of teams where I drafted Brady Hunt and then Fairchild as the backup, and Hunt has not played this season, and I've been trying to rely on Fairchild, who averaged like 11 points a game last season and currently has like 7 on the year. So that's been tough, but that's probably my own fault for starting him.
Yeah, dude, I got a team, and I'm lucky. I slightly better than Fairchild. I have Gavin Bartholomew, who I threw in as a desperation play.
Week.
Had a good week. Maybe looking a little bit more like 2021 Gavin Bartholomew. If he gets 5 targets a week, I'm excited. But yeah, that team, I had Brady Hunt as tight end 1, Caden Prieskorn as tight end 2, and I'm starting Gavin Bartholomew. So,
that's how it goes.
Excited. Yeah, not excited about that.
And then you put on the show sheet Zach Evans, the Minnesota running back. Did not see a single attempt against Eastern Michigan in a game that
2 games in a row,
25-6.
Yeah, has been a big old nothing. I think there's a story there. Either he's just not in some rotation, or has he been hurt? I just think we're not getting the information.
Snap.
Yeah, not getting the information. Oh yeah, I didn't. Did you check PFF? There was no.
Yeah, no snaps.
So I wanted to do kind of like rapid fire. We don't want to have to get into it too deep on this, but dead or alive, right? And we were kind of rolling into it already with these guys. We talked about Smoke. You're sure Smoke's going to be fine. We've got a long history of Smoke being at least a decent CFF asset. Dion, we talked about a little bit. I just think we don't know yet either way. But we got a few other guys that have definitely been more troublesome for our teams. So you want to launch into your first guy?
Yeah, my first guy is Jalen Noel, the Iowa State wide receiver. This is a guy that I think both of us had some Devy aspirations for. Super fast, super shifty. In the first 2 weeks of this season, he has 10 receptions for 56 yards. Has done that on 18 targets. This is just a horrible offense with Rocco Becht at the quarterback position. What do you make of Noel?
Yeah, I don't know. He needed to have a nice season this year to really make himself a desirable asset on the NFL side. At this point, I'd have to think he's going to come back, if he thinks, or transfer. I just think, I mean, he was a highly recruited guy. He's got NFL speed, and we've seen the highlights, but
he's also one of the best punt returners in the country.
Yeah. So you think he could be a day 3 kind of? Sure.
Yeah.
He already had one. Or did he have a return for a TD this year already? I feel like he might have. Yeah, he did in the first game. But so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's a junior this year, looking like he's headed more on a 4-year track, which is not what we love to
This
see out of our wide receivers.
this Iowa State offense, like this passing offense, is interesting because it's all going through two guys. It's all going through Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. It's just really freaking bad. But like Higgins had 13 targets, Noel had 11. They both caught 8 passes, and they were both bad because this team is not getting to the end zone. I mean,
well, and it's like
the Iowa
like
defense is good, like comparatively to some of the other teams they'll play, but I don't know what to make of it.
they weren't any better in week 1 against a much weaker
Northern Iowa.
Yeah, right. I don't know if we can blame it on the defense on this one. I mean, the target volume is nice. You just would really like to see him turning it into something more than 50 yards.
Yeah, I mean, Noel week 1 had 6 targets, led the team, 4 receptions, 6 yards.
With 7 targets, 6 yards. That is hard to do. That is legendary status on the short area passing game.
Average depth of target was 6 somehow. Oh, he must have had one deep one. Maybe catch.
Gosh, no bueno, Jalen Noel. So alive or dead? He's still alive for me, but God, I don't think you're going to put him in the starting lineup this year unless they make a quarterback change.
Yeah, unless JJ Cole ends up good somehow. Yeah, I would agree. I'm not dropping him in C2C. CFF, I might if the options are there.
Yeah, seasonal CFF. He'd be
or
off
even
my
Dynasty
roster.
CFF. Yeah.
Dynasty CFF. I can still see him having
back
a
up at the
target
end of the
once.
season.
Yeah. I'm pretty ruthless with drops if I don't think a guy is an NFL asset. So I would be cool getting rid of him. All right. My first guy has been a lead weight on my roster for 3 weeks now. Kind of a really similar situation, and yet not a new quarterback situation for him. And that's Tyron Smith from UTEP. Turned 10 targets this week into 40 yards and no touchdown. In fact, has just barely broken 100 yards in the season over 3 games. Scored a touchdown last week, but I don't feel like you can start Tyron Smith until you see something change. How do you feel, Kyle?
I would tend to agree. I mean, 9 targets in this game is pretty impressive, but he just did nothing with them. 5 receptions, 40 yards. Wasn't highly graded by PFF in this game either, so take that with a grain of salt. But
been a good player in the past. Been a player that many people thought highly of. So I don't know.
Do you think it's? I don't know. They had 30 pass attempts in this game, and they did only have 12 pass attempts in week 1. I think that obviously has a lot to do with it, but not being able to get it done when they're passing the ball 30 times is pretty rough.
And I would love to blame Gavin Hardison, the quarterback. I don't think you can. In this game, he had 25 attempts, 7 completions, 68% completion. So he's not getting volume, and that might be part of the problem. If you're throwing the ball 25 times a game, in a game you're losing, it doesn't bode well for your receiving core. But yeah, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 4 sacks. The numbers do kind of start to stack up and paint a picture here. Despite him having 7.7 yards attempt and decent completion percentage, if you're averaging a sack for every 6 dropbacks, you're going to have a really rough game.
Yeah, Part of me, though, I can't bring myself to cut him until we get to the Sunbelt schedule.
I'm not cutting Tyron Smith unless it's a very small league and I have great options available. And I think that's always a conversation that's more interesting about these guys. Like, who would you cut him for?
Larvadane.
I would definitely cut him for Lardane. In fact, I think I have that queued up in one of my like open waiver small leagues that I have for sure. But yeah, it would have to be someone of that magnitude, right?
Yeah. My next dead or alive is another CFF guy that we were excited about, has prior performances that were pretty impressive. And I don't think we can blame the quarterback. And that's Ashton Hawkins, the Texas State slot wide receiver. Has 2 performances this year, one of 10.8 fantasy points, one of 7.1, 8 receptions for 99 yards in total on just 15 targets over the first 2 weeks. What do you make of him?
I don't know. I mean, it's a whole new offense this year, right? And they brought in transfer talent as well, if I'm remembering correctly. Who was it? They have a couple of their good receivers now.
Joey Hobart's the one who's been there last year and has been pretty decent.
Yeah, he's been substantially better, right? Yeah, Joey Hobart averaging 9.8 fantasy points a game. Still not great. Cole Wilson averaging 8.95. God, you know,
Drew
at least this
Donnelly
week,
had
I
7
think.
targets.
At least this week, I think it was a Finley problem more than anything else. 6 sacks for TJ Finley.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
Against
53%
UTSA after they beat Baylor.
Yeah. How bad is Baylor?
Well, Baylor
Although
almost
it might
beat
have
Utah.
been. Yeah, it's true. Well, and just I'm looking at TJ Finley's stat lines, and he played well in the Baylor game. At least the stat sheet says so. I didn't watch the game, but almost 10 yards an attempt, 3 touchdowns, 1 sack, and that might be the story, right? If Uso was in his face, getting pressure on him, and he was making bad decisions with the ball. I mean, that's kind of what we've seen from TJ Finley in the past. It's tough to be an accurate quarterback leading a potent offense when you're getting hit over and over again.
Yeah, it's tough to be a good team when you're getting hit over and over again by UTSA too.
By UTSA, right?
Although probably not giving enough credit for them. I think they're a good team, but
it seems like they at least have some potent defense in the trenches for sure.
Yeah. I was thinking,
so what are you doing?
I was thinking of UTEP. Got confused.
I do
that all the time. UTSA is the good one with Jeff Traylor, head coach, and Kavorian Barnes. And
yeah. So what are you doing with Hawkins? Is he droppable?
I don't think so. I mean, 15 targets in 2 weeks. I think you got to keep a guy who's averaging 7.5 targets a game. I mean, second on the team amongst wide receivers and snaps last week. It's just going to be ugly. I worry about. I think him, Donnelly, Hobart, and Wilson all had over 42 snaps. So they're all seeing the field a lot. So it's just going to be tough to predict. I have him in a couple of leagues. I have Hobart in a couple of leagues, and it's just like a dice roll when you put him out there. Like it feels like if they catch a touchdown, they're getting like 18 points a game, but a bad game is going to be 2.
Yeah. I'm not dropping a guy that I liked coming into the season unless I got a great option. You know what I mean? Like I looked when we were talking about the 2 guys I had queued up to drop Tyron Smith for in my small league where I have a loaded roster is Lardane and then Desmond Claiborne, the running back from Wake Forest, who I think is a good player, at least going to get a couple of years of good production, if not, at least a late round NFL type presence out of him. And both are going to help me win right now, which Tyron isn't. And Tyron's not an early round NFL guy. So I just don't feel like I'm giving up
Tyron's
that
not
much
an
in that
NFL
instance.
guy, period.
Well, yeah.
Tyron's not an
I
NFL
know
guy,
he could be like a
period. He's
kick
too
returner,
short.
maybe. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So one other guy, and this has been the source of much teeth gnashing and consternation on my part, and that is tight end from Penn State University, Theo Johnson. Theo, once hyped up for his athleticism and put in the realm of the high-end tight end prospects from this class, lost snaps to Brenton Strange. Now he's losing snaps to Tyron Warren, losing passing game work to Tyron Warren. I mean, is Theo Johnson dead?
That is tough. I don't think he's Devy dead. That's kind of the issue. I mean, he's a 6'6" tight end who's like super athletic. He could go to the NFL and possibly latch on. And we've seen Penn State tight ends get a little overdrafted. I mean, Brenton Strange was like a 3rd round pick, despite all right.
2nd round pick, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. With like all right production. NFL definitely thinks that Penn State is a tight end factory. So I think we could still see it. I'm not, rushing to drop him unless I don't know who you're even picking up at tight end at this point.
All the guys we wanted to pick up last week did not do good this week.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like Ben Sinnott or like Jared Wiley. I don't know, but I think I'd rather keep Johnson, especially in a C2C league, and just hope he gets a little better. This week against Delaware, he definitely got pulled. I mean, everybody did eventually. They're playing Delaware. But he did have 2 targets, which he caught both of while he was playing. So 2 targets on 20 routes. It's not horrible for a tight end. So maybe we'll see him more involved once this they start playing quality opponents.
Yeah. Could happen. That could be the story there.
I do wonder between him and Warren, like who was on the field to start the game and if one of them was like playing at the end. But I don't know.
Worth checking out if you've got the stats in front of you. It's tough to keep them on, like if you get a 45-man bench, sure, why not? You probably don't have great options in the limited waiver environment, but in the kind of league where I can add someone that's going to help me win now, it's tough to keep them.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying about Devy, but like,
it's also just tight ends are so hard. There's like not that many anyway. So I'm not rushing to drop him, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm trying to see who would be available to pick up, but excuse me.
We'll come back to it. We're both kind of looking stuff up about Johnson, but my last guy is Tennessee wide receiver Brew McCoy. He so far this season has 7 receptions for 72 yards on 13 targets. CFF point totals of 4.1 and 10.1. This is a passing offense that doesn't seem to be quite as good as we thought it was going to be. And really, none of the wide receivers have broken out. I mean, Squirrel White's been okay. Dante Thornton's done nothing. Brew McCoy's been pretty bad. Mel Keaton's been all right. Like, none of these guys are separating themselves as like a target winner. But Brew seems to be the one who's even more so of the ones we expected, of the 3 we expected to be on the outside looking in. So I don't know what to do with him.
I mean, I don't feel like you're gonna regret it later if you drop him, right? You would have to have, at this point, I think, an injury to one of the other guys to really make him be a target gainer. And who's to say that he would be him, right? I feel like Dante Thornton would they're like the same player, and Dante Thornton's younger and more athletic. So I don't know. I don't have Brew McCoy rostered, fortunately, so I don't have this problem. But gosh, the squirrel white thing's killing me. I really thought he was one of those lock and load 'em players this year, and we were sorely mistaken in that take.
Yeah, I was lower on him than you, but yeah, it's been unimpressive and somewhat unimaginative. That seems to be the story that all the Tennessee fans want to believe, is that they're hiding the playbook against Austin P and Virginia. But
yeah, I wonder if the reality is.
I think you're talking yourself into something there. And I think teams have more so just figured out how to guard Milton and how to not let him throw downfield.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is he's not Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker, as much as he was a late bloomer, had really high level ball placement, ability to really hit any area on the field, poise under pressure, and Milton does not give Heupel that same flexibility with his play calling. We'll say
it's really the middle of the field, like anticipatory throws that do so well against two deep safety looks that they're going to run to stop the deep ball that Hendon Hooker was really good at, and that Joe Milton just does not seem to have. So
yeah,
definitely rough.
Yeah. Tough month so far for Tennessee fans. I hope for your sake that it gets better.
The defense has played well.
The defense has improved. That's true. Not that you've played
We'll play a competent offensive line in Florida this week, and a competent running game, but not a competent passing game. So we'll get to see.
Is it time for? Are they for real? Is it
I
time?
believe so. Why not?
Are they for real? This is one of my favorite segments this year, Kyle. I have fun with this. We need a little tootsie horn or something for the. They for real. I'm gonna pump some juice up into this. I don't have enough energy to. For those of you not in the know, that is the StreamYard background music known as rock. I tried to get Kyle to let us use it as the intro music, and he couldn't bring himself to do it.
No. We can use it to introduce Are They For Real?
We can. Let's do it. So, Are They For Real? The Cincinnati Bearcats. I know we both were quick to write them off after an easy win over Eastern Kentucky, in which they ran the score up. It's a little bit harder to write them off after a win over Pitt. Maybe not a top-tier program this year, but certainly a respectable program. What do you think?
I still lean no. This is still a team with a new coach and just new players all around. I don't think this is going to be a super Cinderella story team or anything. I think they're going to struggle against the Big 12, real heavyweights. I don't think they're going to be competitive with teams like Texas or Oklahoma or even like a Kansas State level team. I think most of the old guard in the Big 12 is still better than Cincinnati. They could probably beat Baylor. They could beat Iowa State. But other than, that, I still don't see it. Emory Jones had just 4.8 yards per attempt in this game. Definitely wasn't a world beater through the air. An ADOT of just 4.5. That's the Emory Jones we love to see. We tend to see a little bit more. That definitely seems to be their strategy, and maybe that's what's going to work for them, is throwing the ball short, attacking the short areas of the field. But I don't think that's a winning strategy for most teams.
You know what, Kyle? If your quarterback was Emory Jones, your strategy would be short passing as well.
You would think, but there's a lot of NCAA teams that don't do that when they have horrible quarterbacks.
I think the story there might be Corey Kiner, a guy that had real Devy hype earlier in his career and really looks to be coming into his own this year. A guy with workhorse size, carrying the load, 153 yards and a tutty. I mean, that's almost half the team's offense by himself. So he might be an eye to watch if he's unowned in your leagues.
I think another big part of this story is Pitt is not it this year. Phil Jerkovic in this game, 10 for 32.
3 touchdowns, though.
3 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's very bad. That's very bad. And, you know, Gavin Bartholomew might be the best pass catcher he has. And God, Rodney Hammond is beating me up. I was penciling him in as a weekly starter, and that seemed to be a very bad take as well. One of many from this offseason for me.
Oh, my God. Bub Means, the Pitt wide receiver who has been so hyped since being on the freak list this offseason, had 11 targets and did not catch a single one. He got
impressive.
He got the Jim Nagy Senior Bowl tweet before the game started, and then did that.
0 for 11. That's challenging. It takes a certain level of player to do that, we'll say.
Yeah.
It might be a Dracovic problem, but still. That's pretty rough.
That is half of his incompletions were to Bub Means.
Yeah, could be the Dracovic has a Bub Means problem.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Who you got for Are They Real?
I have, if I look at the correct show sheet, I don't know why I have 2 open. Will Howard, the Kansas State quarterback who was hyped by plenty of, Devy folks this offseason. Not a guy that I really bought into, but has been impressive in the first 2 games. 39 for 58 so far, 547 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 3 rushing touchdowns. But he's played, I believe, Southeast Missouri and Troy. Do you expect Will Howard to continue to be impressive against Big 12 teams?
I mean, Will Howard was good at the end of last year. Really, he played well in those last 3 or 4 games. Let's look at his 22 stat log. Got the brick speed off him by Alabama, 51% completion in that. Against TCU last year, 27.6 fantasy points, not an amazing performance, 6.2 yards per attempt. Kansas played very well, not a great fantasy performance, but 10.1 yards per attempt, still pretty weak completion percentage. That might be who he is. I don't know. Doesn't offer you a lot on the ground for a rushing floor.
He had 41 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns this week. Kind of saved his performance.
He literally did not do that last year. Last year, he had 1 game over 30 rushing yards, and that was can't see the screen, against TCU the first time he played them, in which he threw for 11.3 yards per attempt and loss. So I don't know. No, I don't think he's some high-level player. I think he's a competent college quarterback on a decent offense, but without much playmakers. And I think that's the other problem for him. So who is he throwing the ball to?
Ben Sinnott. the tight end.
Yeah. But is he a startable quarterback? I think in most weeks, yes. I think he's going to get you 20 points per game or more most of the time, unless he's playing a really strong defense.
Yeah, I mean, this week he went 20 for 31 for 249 and 2 with a pick, but PFF gave him a pass grade of 54.2. So maybe the film
Sounds bad.
that is bad. That is quite bad. But I didn't watch the game, so maybe he looked really bad. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. I guess we're gonna talk about Texas a lot, so we can talk about this kind of as we lead into that. But for right now, Tyler Van Dyke, the Miami offense, having a breakout performance against A&M. Kyle, are they for real?
Yes. I think Van Dyke is still a very talented quarterback. I think his demise last season came from the offensive coordinator, who is gone. Thank the Lord if you're a Miami fan. He was horrible. And they bring in a new one, and he's opened up the offense already. And he looked dang good in this game. He was 21 for 30, 374 yards, 5 touchdowns. And I think he has some legit weapons. I think Colby Young has looked really good in the first 2 games. Jacoby George caught 3 touchdowns in this game. And Xavier Restrepo has looked pretty solid over the first 2 weeks as well. So I think this Miami team is for real. I think they'll challenge in the ACC. I think their talent level probably puts them in the top 4 teams in the ACC.
Interesting. Are they a contender for the ACC championship?
With how bad Clemson has looked, I think they have to be.
Yeah.
Considered in that tier.
Yeah, for sure. Florida State's still ACC this year, right?
Yeah. And
Like
next year. They're
probably the team to beat. But.
Yeah, they definitely seem to be after they beat LSU. But somebody else has got to play them in the championship, right? So.
Yeah. Okay. What else you got here?
I have Roman Wilson, the Michigan wide receiver. In his first 2 games this season against Eastern Carolina and UNLV, he has a combined 10 receptions, 167 yards, and 5 touchdowns. 50% touchdown rate on his catches. Just 13 targets over the first 2 weeks, but he's gotten to the end zone often. Do you think this is just a lucky break for him or what?
I don't know if it was you or someone else that said he might be this year's Jalen Hyatt in terms of the guy that doesn't give you the volume you want, but just scores at will. He's explosive. Some people like him as a NFL guy, honestly, just based on athleticism, what they've seen of him. Coming from a data point, that's tough for me to really the guy that broke out in his 4th season, right? He's a fourth year player this year. So, got some run in his 2nd year with 420 yards. But I think that the reason that I might be interested in him, despite the low target volume, is that's an offense that definitely seems to breed explosive plays just by establishing the run and then having these athletic playmakers, taking shots downfield. So I could see Roman Wilson being a bit of an anomaly this season, despite having low target volume. I don't mind having him on a couple of my rosters as long as I don't have to pay for him. I'm certainly not throwing like multiple fab dollars at him. Maybe $4 if it's a league doesn't have a ton of availability, or more if you're really limited waivers and there's not much out there. But I'm not chasing him over a target earner. Like give me an Eric Brooks or, even, who else should make my waivers. The kid from Florida that's been playing really well. It's on a bunch of waivers. He's ahead of Roman in all of my queues, but I got Roman queued up in a couple of leagues.
I do think Roman Wilson plays on Sundays. I think Michigan has this past of recruiting high-level athletes to play the wide receiver position, not developing them, not using them, and they've put guys like Nico Collins, Donovan Peoples-Jones into the NFL with limited production, probably a little better than Roman Wilson so far. But if he does it this year, then he's done it, right? And I do think he has that type of athleticism to play on Sundays. I don't think he's a first-round pick, but I could talk myself into round 3 if he does this, if he does something similar to this all season. And the other thing that I find promising for Roman Wilson is that J.J. McCarthy has just looked really freaking good this year. He is in command of that offense. He is throwing completions, throwing strikes. 22 for 25 against UNLV this week, and 8 out of 8.2 on those throws. This is a team that mixes the run and the pass really well. They tend to start on the ground, but they're opening it up more than they have. They're passing the ball on first down, which is improvement for Michigan. And McCarthy has 6 incompletions on the year. So
yeah, great offensive line, great run game, got some talent around him. I could see it happening. And look, a good place to start is averaging 84 yards a game like Wilson is. I definitely see him as one of those guys that we're going to see a lot of clips of in Senior Bowl week. I think that's his path to the NFL. But every year we see 2 or 3 of those guys shoot up draft boards. And I think that could well be Wilson this year. As long as he
and I think
healthy.
the other thing about this Michigan offense is that J.J. McCarthy has had like 30 attempts the last 2 weeks. And the season openers against Hawaii and UConn last year was 12 and 18. It just seems that they want to get this passing game in order. So maybe they're going to actually open it up a little bit comparatively to past seasons.
Yeah, I love it. I guess just real rapid fire. My other one was JT Daniels and Rice overcoming Houston this week. Are you interested at all?
I'm still interested in Luke McCaffrey. I don't
McCaffrey
think I'm
had
picking
a
up
nice
JT
game.
Daniels.
Yeah. Rice. Yeah. All right. So we had a new segment for you guys today. I'm calling it. I'm testing out the names. We're trying to find something catchy, but I'm calling it 5 plays, 5 stats. And we're going to do a little bit of data film here. And we put a poll out. You guys spoke to me and I ignored you because the Texas game was so much fun that was really ultimately what I wanted to look at this time. So we're going to throw up some film and look at it together. Again, we're not going to watch a whole game here, but we are going to watch a couple of plays. So I'm going to launch right into us. So we got some plays queued up. Quinn Ewers, Jatavian Sanders, Xavier Worthy, and the rest of the Texas offense. And I thought they did a lot of good things in this game. And I'll say this too, Kyle, and I'm sure you picked up this as well. I think Steve Sarkisian is really working wonders for Quinn Ewers. You'll see the same patterns of play calling here that you see on the Alabama film. They got Mac Jones drafted. And it's a lot of these short passes, getting Ewers working in rhythm and then ripping off chunk plays and deep shots. So first play here is just Quinn Ewers working in rhythm. this isn't a big deal. This is a relatively easy play, but what I like is I like the rhythm. I like the timing. He's not waiting. The ball gets snapped. He hits the play. And the other thing I really like about this is his ball placement. He's putting it out in front of.
If you think it is.
What's up? Oh, I didn't present it.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at this.
I was like, is he just introducing it, or is he?
Nope. I am watching this play by myself. So you see here, this is just cool. Just a little in rhythm, a little screenplay out of this, the trips or bunch formation, whatever it is, but it's just these easy throws that Sarkisian's queuing up that Ewers is making with touch, on time and on schedule, helping him get in rhythm. I like this. It's simple, but this is what he needs to be doing, getting himself where he is, where he's got to be. And that's where you want Quinn Ewers working, is in rhythm, in time. So this one, I really liked his patience. I liked him climbing the pocket. And I liked the placement on the ball. And again, a little bit of pressure around the edge. You just, nice little step up. Boom. Whittington breaks free. Nice ball placement, leading him out there. Simple plays, but these are important things for Quinn Ewers to be doing. They're things that you didn't see him doing a ton of last year. He was forcing things. He was trying to make plays that weren't there. Really, I think a lot of improvement for him in this game specifically. And then this play, this is the one you've seen over and over again in the highlights if you've been into it. This is just a really nice deep ball. I saw some guys on TV saying that this is a better play by Worthy than it is by Ewers. I think it's a really nice throw and a really nice catch here.
Some
Kyle,
moonshot.
But just really the placement. Just only Worthy can get to it. Just full extension.
That's true.
I loved it, man.
That ball definitely is not getting picked off, but
it's not getting picked off. It's a touchdown or it's an incompletion.
Might hit Mount Everest on its way down, but
yeah. More of these just nice swing plays by Ewers. And then here's this one. And this is a little bit of the good and the bad. So this is where you see, Ewers, the confidence, the, improv, looking across, sees guy, throws ball, right? But maybe a ball that he shouldn't throw. I mean, undercut a little more. That could have been an interception. But, it was almost a touchdown. It's a really great defensive play to keep this from being a touchdown. And really, ball placement on this is nice too. Just you could see that getting picked off. But you know what? Maybe he made the read. He was confident he could get the ball in there.
Definitely put some gas on it.
Put some gas on it. And that's, Ewers' arm strength is there. And he has just a fluidity in his throwing motion that reminds me of Aaron Rodgers, and just the like sees the player, launches the ball with zip on it. This is more about JT for me. Several of these next plays, but again, Ewers, dropping back, patience under pressure. Nice throw to JT. And JT was a beast in this game. You'll see a couple more clips of him here. And this is another of the maybe not so great Ewers. He kind of gets the happy feet a little bit, just not getting set. Throws this ball really off platform and not in a good way.
I don't think that's a bad play. I don't think he had anywhere to
go. Play, but
I don't think he had anywhere to go in the pocket, and he puts it where it's not going to get picked.
True. And the receiver has a shot at it. It's just a little bit high. But I guess if he threw it a little bit lower, it probably would have been a real dangerous ball. I would love to see another angle on that. We don't have one.
Yeah. Gosh.
Just another really nice play down the sideline to Donnie Mitchell. And Mitchell had an awesome game too.
Yeah,
he was less flashy. Good. Yeah. A little bit less flash than Worthy and Jatavian's plays, but it was just in the right places, making plays. Really nice contested balls like this. That is All right, I got a couple more for you guys here. Another nice one. I just like the pocket movement here. And oh man, do I like Jatavian's trackability. He breaks free a little bit more. So this one, nice. He rolls out to the left, patience, hits JT in stride. And that's what you're seeing in all these clips. Ewers is hitting his guys. He's leading the ball, leading them with the ball and putting it in a place that they can catch it in stride with forward motion. And it really, really helps the rack game, helps his guys move. And this is the big one from Jatavian. Just see you later. Stiff arm. Kid is a beast. Jatavian's definitely becoming one of my favorite players in college football. Just a really good player. All right, we got a couple more here. This is one of the touchdown passes here. Really nice. I think this is A.D. Mitchell. Really nice play by both of them. You see Ewers nice anticipation here. You see he throws the ball, before Mitchell's open. I mean,
kind of moves that defender too.
Yeah. Right. Looking off, and then throw it over the middle. I really was impressed with Ewers in this game. It was a lot of smaller things, and then obviously the moon shots. Oh, here's another JT. I'll get to the stats in a second, but I got a Jatavian stat for you. Okay, one last play we'll look at, and we'll see a couple of different views on it. This is the other moon ball to Worthy. I mean, you're telling me NFL coordinators aren't drooling?
Mitchell, but yeah.
Oh, it was Mitchell. Oh, that was Mitchell. That makes me like Mitchell even more. Just dusting these guys. And I had this other view queued up. Just what a nice job catching this ball. I mean, that was impressive. And one last play queued up here. Oh, another nice in rhythm. So Kyle, what did you think about Ewers' performance in this game? Did you enjoy it as much as I did?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely found it impressive. Always impressive to beat Alabama, and I do think his weapons really shined. I do think he's not. I don't want to say he's not elevating the team, but he's not elevating to the level that we've seen other guys do.
I mean, he's not Caleb Williams.
I do think this Texas team is one of the most talented rosters in the country at every position, in the trenches and at skill positions. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure A.D. Mitchell and Worthy would be the wide receiver one for almost any team in the country, either one of them. Right? They're both that level of talent there.
And Sanders is the tight end one for any team except for one.
Any team except Georgia, right? Of course. All right. Here's the 5 stats for you. Ewers PFF position grade versus Alabama, 90.5. That's a really nice grade. And that's a lot better than him the week before against Rice. But yeah. That is still a nice data point. 10.72 adjusted yards per attempt. That's a really good number. And this is probably my favorite one. 5 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Young man has not thrown a pick through 2 games, and that was something that was a problem for him last year. Love seeing him play clean football. I think he's getting himself back on draft boards for Devy guys and probably for NFL teams as well. And I got 2 fun Jatavian standard stats. 15.4 yards after contact per reception. That's not yards per reception. That's yards after contact per reception. And 2.43 yards per route run, which is a nice figure if you're a wide receiver. If you're a tight end, that's balling out.
2.43
yards per route run. That's perfect.
Is that both games or?
I believe that's both games. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In this game, it would have been more, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely impressive. The tools have never left Quinn Ewers, so I do think NFL teams are going to have to take a long look at him and try to figure out if this putty is, moldable into a franchise quarterback. And I think he's starting to show it at Texas. So
yeah, I think he's a guy that gets drafted by a team, sat for a year for a red shirt, let him develop. And I think he could be a real thing in the NFL because he has some of those traits, just the creativity as a passer and the decisiveness just the ball placement and touch that really are very high level traits. He just needs to put it all together.
So my question for you, do you think Quinn Ewers is a class of 2024 prospect or 2025?
I think he comes out this year.
Yeah. He's a weird prospect because he is technically eligible for this year, but he really shouldn't be because of that reclassification right before the season started, and really a year where he was just at Ohio State, just there.
I mean, I think he's eligible.
Yeah, he definitely is. But
I think if he plays football like that for most of the season, he gets into the first round. And I think if he's in the first round, he comes out. And I think he'll know whether or not he's going to be in the first round or similar. I think the Will Levis thing happens here and there, but if the kid comes out and he's a high second round pick, it's not going to kill him. Either way, I think he's getting drafted to sit. I think it's a bad idea if an NFL team drafts him and starts him week 1, personally.
Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, there's a lot of football to be played. If Texas is going to play like this every week, they'll probably end up in the top 4 at the end of the season. And, the quarterbacks of those teams tend to go pro and tend to be first-round picks, no matter who they are. So,
unless they're Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, obviously. But
okay,
I mean, the 5 stars to get there.
Yeah, 5 stars to get there. All right, how's waivers looking this week for you?
I'm holding off a lot. I mean, nobody impressed. Well, other than Larvadane, if he's still available. But not a lot of guys impressed me this week to where they weren't picked up week 1 and then impressed me this week enough that I want to pick them up yet.
Yeah, I have a whole list of names that I might pick up if I have just dead weight on my team to see if, throw $1, see if they do something. Whole bunch of freshmen that got in on in garbage time and did something. But I got my biggest waiver pickups are guys that didn't get taken last week that should have in the limited waiver claims leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Eric Brooks is my top queued player everywhere, or Gage Larvadane. Those are my top 2 in every league where they're available. I feel like Lincoln Victor is actually available in fewer of my leagues than Brooks for whatever reason.
Probably. I think that's what Fantrax will tell you as well.
That's interesting to me because I had Brooks higher last week.
I don't know. But that's my guy that I'm going to bring up. Obviously, we've talked about Larvadane in a couple of segments. Lincoln Victor is my priority ad for this week. He's rostered in behind Larvadane. He's my priority ad. Lincoln Victor is rostered in just 27% of Fantrax leagues. For reference, Eric Brooks is rostered in 54% of Fantrax leagues. So there's your numbers. And Victor has 24 targets across the first 2 weeks of the season. Week 1 against Colorado State, he had 11 receptions for 168 yards. Week 2 against Wisconsin, 7 receptions, 55 yards, and a touchdown. And Wisconsin's going to be one of the top 3 defenses Washington State plays all season. And then the big news out of Pullman today is that DT Sheffield, the wide receiver competing with Lincoln Victor for slot snaps, is no longer with the team. So Victor rising up my ranks even more with less competition in a strong passing offense.
Yeah, love it. He's an easy pickup. He was in my queue last week, and he's still floating around. I am heavily targeting him. Got a couple new names to throw out there. These guys are all just like a mile behind Larvadane, Victor, and Brooks for me, but interesting players. So Chris Mitchell, you brought up last week saying, hey, I don't know what to do with Chris Mitchell because he had just gone for 200 yards against Maine, right, of all
Yeah,
places.
after
2
a
touchdowns.
week 0 performance of nothing.
However, he followed up his 200-yard performance with another 11 targets, 94 yards against North Texas. Good for another 22 fantasy points and making him a lot more appealing to me as a fantasy player. It was another close game, but are there teams that Florida International is going to beat down this year? I don't think so, right? I mean, they're going to be in close
they're
games.
They're a bottom 5 team in the FBS.
Yeah, close games or trailing. So I think there's a world where Chris Mitchell sees this kind of volume. Look, are you telling me a guy is going to average 10 or 11 targets on the year? That's an easy pickup for me.
Yeah, he's rostered in just 34% of Fantrax leagues, so definitely probably still available in some of the leagues you're in.
You got anyone else?
Keep going for a little bit. I only have one more.
Oh. Okay. I'm not going to throw all these names out. I wrote down a giant list of names. I'm going to give you guys 2 other people that I think are very much so worthwhile. 3 other people. One would be Darius Taylor, the aforementioned, who just went ham for Minnesota this week. If he is the guy, and I believe Sean Taylor was nicked up, I don't know how bad. I don't know that we have information on that yet, although I can try.
They both played.
Sean Taylor definitely has a little red flag right now. Sean Taylor. Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
It's Tyler.
They both. Sean. Yes, Tyler. Yeah. So they both played. They both got a lot of attempts. And honestly, Tyler played well too, 93 yards. But that might be what it is. It might be a committee. But Darius Taylor is a true freshman. You tell me a true freshman is going to get 15 plus carries a game. I'm very interested. He's only going to get better from here. He's a pretty highly recruited guy. He is out there, not in all my leagues, but in probably 20 or 30% of them right now. He's probably out there in more CFF leagues than he is in campus to candidates. One other guy that I thought was pretty interesting. Were you going to talk about Hunter Smith, Kyle?
No.
So Hunter Smith from UL Monroe has back-to-back 100-yard games. He is a young fella. He's a true freshman, I believe, if I remember correctly. And he plays for UL Monroe, where they have often had a strong rushing attack. I am interested in the true freshman. And then one last name I'll throw out to you. Should not be unowned in any league. Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver for Florida, has been seeing huge target volume and playing relatively well. The offense might not be inspiring, but if you're giving me that kind of volume, I don't know that I care.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be super productive for CFF. I do think Pearsall's a guy that I want to add in C2C more than CFF because I think he's a guy who will eat at the Senior Bowl and get drafted.
He is a fifth-year guy right now, but he's very, very fast. Averaging 10 targets a game through 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's very fast. He runs very good routes, so I think he'll do very well in 1v1s at the Senior Bowl.
Right. We love those 1v1s.
Yeah.
Get you drafted.
Keith Willis is a guy that I want to pick up in C2C leagues. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I think he'll take this backfield to some point eventually where he'll be the lead back. And I think he's a very talented running back. So look out for him in the future. I definitely want to pick him up now. And then the one CFF guy I have is a quarterback, and maybe a guy that I want to wait and see like one more week out of before I really pick him up, and that is Grant Wilson, the quarterback from Old Dominion. This week against Lafayette, he had 247 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. I believe he just had like 19 attempts, so 13 yards per attempt for him. This is an Old Dominion team that brings in like an air raid-esque system. I think he'll be good against bad teams, and I think Old Dominion plays plenty of bad teams. So Grant Wilson, a guy that I would look out for as maybe a bye week fill-in at quarterback or something along those lines. If somebody were to get injured, you might want to pick up Grant Wilson.
Yeah, love it. Love the Grant Wilson hype. Okay, Kyle, is that it for waivers?
Jalen Buckley, the freshman running back out of Western Michigan, is still only rostered in 36% of leagues. He had another big game for himself this week. Took the first snap of the game 75 yards to the house against Syracuse. So I think he's a talented freshman running back taking over a backfield quickly. So I want him on my teams, but that's probably rostered already because he had a big week 1. But
Yeah, I'm looking. He's available in 5 of my 16 leagues. 6 of my 16
snap
leagues.
him up.
Snap him up. All right, man. Always, it's been fun. It's been real. It's been real fun.
It's been real fun.
So we do have, if you guys followed along and you're with us, definitely like, subscribe, leave us a review. We love all that stuff. We appreciate your support. And we have a special bonus episode coming to you later this week. We're going to try to, instead of doing super long episodes, divide up our kind of more general Devy content and our kind of week recap into 2 different shows. And we're going to start bringing on some really fun guests. So we appreciate you guys following along with us. And we will see you next week.